Welcome to another edition of ALN Thursday at 3. Today we're going to be talking with John Shelness, founder and CEO of My Property ID Registry, about big picture asset management commercial promotions. How do we take big ideas that we are pursuing and put it down into 30-second commercials so that more people can understand and get interested in the things that we are all very passionate about. And it's going to be a really interesting conversation. There's some history that's great to hear. And then we'll get into a little bit about My Property ID Registry and what a great idea it is, how it's a big picture, and how John has been making commercials about that, and how the Asset Leadership Network can take it to a higher level also. But first, we like to thank our patron members, Kahua, Onuma Inc., and ABS Quality Evaluations, and all of our organizational members and the growing list of associations also that are supportive of the Asset Leadership Network, and our mutual interest in sharing best practices around the world. And before we talk with John, I'm going to talk about what happened last night. We had a values and benefits from asset management web program that had over 300 attendees. That is our second highest values and benefits from asset management program, and it is indicative of us being in the right direction. The program consisted of Wendy McPate talking about her trip to the United States, to Washington, D.C., and participation in the Global Asset Management Summit, Repeatable Success Stories. And she talked to her members in Australia at the Asset Management Council about what it meant to her and what it meant to the organization and the direction of the organization. Then we had Wendy's co-facilitator from the summit, Christina Benti, talk about her award-winning project in Greenwood, British Columbia. The city of Greenwood has started its asset management journey in an ISO 55000 governance approach, and they have won over their citizens, and they are starting to implement asset management governance structures over their asset data. And this is a really excellent example of how to get started. And then Stephen Lothrop, who we have seen on this program in the past, talked about the AI aspects of PAE's headquarters building project, which is really taking off on so many levels. And it was that combination of presentations that attracted over 300 people to the program. And we have something that's very important to be sharing with the world. And it's evidenced by that program. It's evidenced by the incredible buzz in the federal government after our AI and federal asset management day in the House of Representatives Rayburn office building. And we need to promote this in a way that people sell cars and people sell deodorant. And we just have to get this down, this message, in a story format that people talk about the elevator pitch. Well, John Shelness has made commercials about My Property ID Registry, and it's a very healthy approach to getting started with asset management in your home, in your municipality, in your organization of any type. And so thank you, John, for joining us. And we look forward to getting to those commercials. But we want to talk a little bit about you and where you're at and where you come from? Because you got quite an interesting family lineage in making big improvements to society. So, first of all, where are you located?
I'm in Des Moines, Iowa.
And we're having a beautiful day here in Chicago. Are you also enjoying a beautiful day?
Yeah, it's pretty nice, a little muggy.
Oh, okay. So we got some humidity coming towards us here in Chicago. So
Yeah,
I've known you for a few years now, and when you told me about how you got going, I was really impressed. So can you tell us a little bit about your history?
sure. Well, I needed something to retire to. And so I was very fortunate that having a criminal justice background and being a member of my local neighborhood association here in Des Moines and connected to the police department, that I stumbled very accidentally onto the Companion of Neighborhood Watch, which everybody has heard of, but no one has ever heard of its sidekick called Operation Identification. And anybody who's listening today is welcome to Google Operation Identification, and you'll see police departments and sheriff's offices all around the country endorsing this strategy. It's a security system. And when I started examining it, I realized that it was kind of stuck in the 20th century, more like the 1970s. And so I very quickly came up with a methodology for migrating this home security system to the internet, and called it My Property ID Registry. Now, one more thing, Mike, is that very quickly after developing this business, I realized that there was a place for me in federal asset management. And so I joined the National Property Management Association, and then also later the Asset Leadership Network. I write for the Property Professional at the NPMA. And then I also regularly blog on my website, which is mypropertyidregistry.com. And then the little piece that you're talking about was my mom, who back in the 1960s, they moved out of the suburbs of New York City to an acreage to the kind of the rural outskirts. And a blue school bus came to pick up my siblings. And she was so outraged by this that she developed a cause that had to do with automotive safety. And today, school buses stop at railroad crossings and cars are engineered with car seats, um, not solely because of her, but certainly a lot of reasons that it happened was because of her tenacity. And so I really worked side by side with her as a child, and this seemed like a perfect fit. So everything kind of came together for me.
That's wonderful. So you were in asset management and evolving asset management from your childhood because
I suppose so. Yeah,
standardizing all school buses as yellow is asset management. Having seat belts in
sure.
cars is asset management.
That is correct. That's a good way of looking at it.
And so, can you tell us a little bit more about my property registry ID and the simple approach that I consider it eating your vegetables. It's nothing
So,
science,
so it,
it's not science fiction, it's not rocket science, it's really straightforward.
yeah. So just a little correction. It's because it's a mouthful. It's called My Property ID Registry.
Oh, I
And
always
if you
get
put a .com at the end of that, you'll reach the website. So you may see headlines in newspapers about big burglary rings that have been busted. But those are just the big headline grabbing. The thing that most people do not realize is that only around 5% of property crimes are ever solved by the police because, contrary to popular belief, alarm systems and security cameras and locks on doors are not enough to make arrests and earn convictions. And operation identification is an outward-facing form of asset management developed by the U.S. Justice Department in the 1960s. And it is a way of marking property, keeping records of serial numbers, posting warning signs that let criminals know that your property is marked, like in old gangster movies, the way money was marked in banks and is still marked today. And all I did was it dawned on me that this operation identification strategy had not been migrated to the internet. So what I've done is taken operation identification and combined it with the methodology that departments of motor vehicles use to register vehicles. But my system is private and is not accessible by anybody except the account holder, who in turn will access that information if they've been a victim of a crime to give to the police for a crime report.
And it, what could that result in?
So the reason that a person who steals catalytic converters from all over a neighborhood and probably won't be arrested and definitely will not be convicted is because there is no identifying information that the victim has on record for that piece of property. The same is true for a laptop or a television or a cell phone, tools out of your garage, a weed whacker out of your shed. If you do not have a record of the serial numbers to give to the police routinely recover suspected stolen property, but you can't just point to it and say that's mine. You have to have a record. And that's, of course, what asset management is doing at a more institutional level with our members. But my product is a consumer version and a small business version of asset management. And that's why I always like to say asset management begins in the home. And I would encourage people who are listening today, if you want to really understand the most grassroots uh, elements of asset management, the way to go is to check out my product. And I'll be happy to give anybody a free sample if they'd like to look at one.
So, John, did I get your website right on the chat? MyPropertyIDRegistry.com.
That is correct. Yes, Mike.
All right, so they can go there and get that from you and start their own personal example of how they might do this, personally, and how they might bring it to work for their municipality. Haven't you talked to your municipality in Des Moines about this?
So here's the reason that I've been contributing to the property professional at the NPMA is because asset management, based on all of the conversations and listening to the ALN over the years, asset management is inward facing. That is, the concern is with administrators or even contractors. What is happening in-house with our property? What operation identification and what my property ID registry does is it adds an extra layer that most asset management professionals don't think about, which is an outward facing form of asset management that can be stuck on top of any institutional asset management strategy. And that works. Sorry, lost my train of thought. The reason that operation identification works is because it going to a website that is now printed on the asset tag allows the finder or the authorities to return property. So that's the second part of what my product does. So there is if you go to the menu of my website, there's a found page. And so if a police officer or a uh, good Samaritan find a product with one of my asset tags on it, that's a secondary way for them to notify the rightful owner of that lost or stolen piece of property. And then the primary thing is if there's a crime committed, the rightful owner goes into the My Property ID registry database and prints out the affected items to attach to a crime report.
Excellent. John, I think your inward facing and outward facing description really sums up very well what you're doing. And I think it's critical for any organization, personal, I'm my own sole practitioner, so me individually or others can benefit from. And it is one of those big picture asset management ideas to think about outward facing interaction with lost or stolen property. And yet there's a challenge to get people to understand that they should be eating their vegetables, that they should be walking 20 minutes a day. We all know these things. It's hard to get them to do that. And so I think you're innovative in yet another level by moving ahead with this idea of having 30-second commercials to communicate the ideas that you just verbally expressed to us. So, what made you start thinking about that? And then you can start talking about your first one. And I've got that queued up. We'll be able to show that soon.
Okay, so a couple of things. Some of these are 30 second, others are 60 second, and there's also one that's 4 minutes long. So I don't know if we'll have time for the 4 minute one. So you touched on this at the very beginning, Mike. We're giving elevator speeches, right?
Mhm.
And when I first started this business, I came at it from really from left field without any experience in asset management, and very quickly discovered that even people who are at the institutional level of asset management don't necessarily understand what my little innovation is. And then similarly, at the consumer or small business level, most people are so habituated to having cameras and alarms that the
Mhm.
idea of inventorying their property at a pet shop or at a hairdresser or at your home, that seems so counterintuitive to consumers. And so I have been working as the best that I can to come up with simple communications that educate the public. So what you see here in my feed are consumer oriented advertisements, not aimed towards institutional.
I think we could benefit from that same kind of approach.
I would just ask, my fellow ALN members that are listening today, to go to YouTube to My Property ID Registry channel and look at a few of the videos. And of course, all of this stuff can be extrapolated and generalized to, any size organization. When an entrepreneur makes a presentation and you maybe look at the information, say on my YouTube channel, it all looks like this was some very simple progression. I've been at it almost 10 years, and it is like being in a marathon, and I haven't even gone 10 feet yet.
Yeah.
Um, all of the different ads that are there, or the different promotional pieces that are there, have been done by different agencies that I've had to just scratch and network and work my way to finding. Um, I've been I've been really kind of surprised. I've been really kind of surprised how difficult it has been to connect with people. But every once in a while, I'll find someone who says, I get it and I can communicate this for you. So, for instance, the black and white noir one is a company out of San Diego, and they have connections with people in the business in Los Angeles. And they gave me four choices, and this was the one that I went with because my product is kind of old-fashioned, and we're already sort of in development trying to do something else down the line. There's also on my YouTube channel just a line drawing animation that was done
Mhm.
where I hired uh, someone to do the speaking. And similarly, the one that is in the lead position on my YouTube channel and on my homepage, I managed to find a voiceover person who was a police officer. And
Ah,
he really understands the strategy and the value of it. And so that 4 minute piece that's on my homepage really nails it, I think, in a great way. And I really consider that a big victory.
excellent, excellent. So I realized while you were talking, we'll just have Nick Kanoki put them in as if it worked perfectly during this web program. So
Yeah,
Nick,
sure.
cut this part out where I say it didn't work and just make it look like it all came out nicely. Um, and I think that we can learn from you by understanding that there's probably more than one elevator pitch, 30-second approach that we want. And I think you're right
Hmm.
that we don't need to limit ourselves to a 30-second commercial, that we can have mini movies like you have. And I bet you the police officer who's doing the voiceover is emoting in a way that is identifiable to the audience because he gets it and believes in it also. He understands it. So we need to get
Right.
people who are not just who not just understand our approach, but are committed to it also. And to tell you the truth, John, I liked your
Right.
voiceover. So, I don't know that you need to get other people to do voiceover. How did you decide to do the voiceover of the one that introduces Neighborhood Watch and the companion approach that you're following?
Yeah, so yeah, operation identification. So I've been told that my voice works and that, I am the authority in this. In the case of the one with the police officer, he's actually present in the presentation. And you can just tell by his body language that he's a cop or a former cop. And that's very helpful, to have the visual there. And and so yes, I do use my voice too here periodically. It depends on, what's going on. Um,
Excellent. Well, Art Curlin, ALN Senior Fellow and Asset Management Director at University Health, is also volunteer president of the San Antonio Film Society. I don't know if I got that name right, but we'll have to have a meeting with Art and talk about how we can do a commercial for the Asset Leadership Network. And I really thank you for joining us to talk about this and the concepts behind commercialization of our promotion of big picture ideas. And thank you for what you've done. Thank you for your contribution to the uh, Global Asset Management Summit repeatable success stories that helped bring Christina Benti to the event. And by the way, she was offered to be flown to Australia to speak at one of their events because it was clear immediately that she's got an energy and an idea and experience to share around the world. So your contribution to a global event just kept the global movement going. How I started was saying that we really got something going here and we need to keep it going. That's supported very much by you. So thank you very much for what you do with the Asset Leadership Network and for sharing your experience and for letting us know you've been in asset management since you were a kid. Not just asset management, transformative asset
mhm.
management. You were part of making yellow buses, yellow school buses. That's pretty cool. And thanks to everyone for watching. And we'll see you again next week on ALN Thursday at 3.